Morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. This is Jyoti Pandey from the Internet Governance Project, and welcome to the session on content governance. In this session, we will have two presentations. Farzaneh Badi, who is the director of the Social Media Governance Initiative at Yale University. Farzaneh will break down how both US and Chinese governments are trying to exert control over content moderation and security practices of popular messaging apps like Telegram through digital store providers like Apple. Next up, we have Jinhe Liu and Yang Li from Tsinghua University. They will take us through a comparative study of content governance mechanisms in China and the US, including the interesting case study of ByteDance that is navigating both these worlds. Please use the Q&A button to submit your questions for the panelists, which we will take after both paper presentations are completed. So without further delay, turning it over to you, Farzaneh. Please share your slides.
Thank you, Jyoti. So I'm going to walk you through my slides about governing Telegram through Apple in the US and China. This is a larger part of this is a part of my larger research about Telegram's governance in the US and China. And my name is Farzaneh Badi. I am based in Yale Law School. This is by no means in the Yale Law School capacity, is in my personal capacity, and also Digital Medusa capacity, which an initiative I have recently launched. So let's talk about, okay, let me tell you a little bit about what Telegram is. Telegram is a messaging app, but it also goes beyond the actual messaging, and it also facilitates e-commerce. People around the world use it for connecting with family and friends, but also it supports uprisings. It is normally resistant to government requests for data. It provides encryption, and it's very protest friendly. It was used heavily during the Hong Kong uprising in 2019 to also like organize rallies and communicate with each other to discuss how to protest in different public and private channels. But I'm going to actually discuss how Telegram's governance is affected by what I want to call at the internet infrastructure level. And this is one of the cases that we usually don't look at so carefully, because we look at sometimes the platform governance itself and what sort of initiatives the platform or the app take, or how the government tries to regulate the platform. But there is, in the governance landscape of the platforms, there are these third parties that come into play, and they have a lot of control and a lot of power that I'm going to describe during this presentation. So how do I define internet infrastructure? I think that that it's a host of actors that can control and diminish the existence of users in apps and domain names from the internet in general. For example, you have the cloud services, you have domain name registries and registrars, and I include App Store. And this is controversial, and some of you might not agree with me that app stores are infrastructure. That's something that we can discuss later, but overall they have a lot of control in the actual governance of the apps, because they can kind of destroy the digital presence of users. And also so how do the App Store, and this is why we're talking about Apple, and I think that Apple is known to everybody like a big tech corporation that manufactures mobile devices, but also a bunch of other things, as well as providing an app store. How do these app stores regulate platforms? They have a governance. They govern them through the app store, govern the apps through curated app store. This means that if I want to offer my app to an iPhone user, I need to go to Apple to the App Store and tell Apple that here's my app and here is how I have complied with your terms of service. The terms of service is usually, well, in case of Apple, is very expensive. It's about security. It's about privacy measures that the apps take. You must be familiar with the recent measure that Apple took for to kind of impose apps to comply with privacy measures, and also about like the security measures that they take. And the most important part of this that is related to our discussion is about content. Apple specifically has content related terms and conditions that tells the apps that they cannot host extremist and inappropriate content on their apps, and what happens to them later on is very excessive. They might like get several warnings, or the app might actually be removed from the store, which means that potentially no iPhone user in, well, whatever region it is can actually download that app. So it is very interesting to see how Apple actually affected Telegram's governance. It was in 2015. Telegram was an app that came about around 2013 in Russia, and its motto was to protect freedom of expression, and it still is. And until 2015, they did not even have a content governance kind of terms and conditions. It was at the request of Apple and Google, the app stores, that Telegram came up with its first content regulation terms and condition, which consists of 4 clauses, very brief, which I like. I think it's good, but the problem is that they don't have a governance, a thorough governance mechanism in place, and that's not because their terms and conditions are not long, but I'm not going to go on about that. I have a report about that you can read. So Apple, at certain point in, I think it was in 2018, that it kept threatening Telegram that if it does not take down certain channels, take down certain content, it will remove Telegram from the App Store. And it did. And this is how we find out about it, because the transparency reports usually don't tell us this. How we find out about it is that the CEO of Telegram is sometimes very expressive. So he came out and said that there was this problem with these couple of channels, and Apple has removed us. We are going to address the issues. And then they went back on the App Store. It also actively tells Telegram to block certain channels on the platform, like the user channels, and Telegram has to oblige. I'm going to talk about the reactions of Telegram to these requests by Apple. So how does Apple and Telegram relationship work in the US? One is that there are sometimes lawsuits against Apple because Apple has not removed Telegram from its platform. And this is like, unlike these it is very unlikely that these lawsuits are successful and the court tells Apple that they have to remove Telegram. But there is the potential that through the court, Apple is told to remove some app. Then Apple's own initiative to threaten that it will remove Telegram from the App Store because of inappropriate content, or it can ask them to block a channel. And this is very important because I have not even seen, to my knowledge, there is no transparency report about how and when they ask a certain channel to be blocked. And then one interesting thing that happened, and this I'm going to connect this to the China case, is that before and after the Capitol riot incident that happened in January in the US, Telegram was used heavily by the right-wingers and people who had objections to the election and how it was being done and the results. But Apple did not threaten Telegram to take any action, but Telegram took action on its own. And afterwards, it did not remove Telegram from the apps. And also, we don't see that the US government asks Apple to remove Telegram from the store. The fun part of this is that the US has sting operations that go on Telegram. So they, instead of using I'm not saying that they don't use the App Store, but and their connection with Apple, but also they have these like sting operation that they send FBI to talk to some people who are prone to doing terrorism, and they arrest them and put them in prison. Okay, so we have the scenario of Apple and Telegram in China is a little bit different. The Telegram was actually removed at the request of Chinese government in 2015 from Apple's App Store, and the reason was that a few human rights activists and lawyers used Telegram effectively in order to communicate and talk about evil things. So they were removed from the Telegram was removed at their request, and also Apple, we have like this is based on the behavior of Apple. These are some of the kind of like hypotheses or kind of guessing what Apple can do to Telegram and other apps in China, like based on their previous actions. Like, for example, they can threaten to remove Telegram from the App Store in Hong Kong should Telegram not adopt certain government-friendly content moderation approaches. And they've done that to other apps during the Hong Kong when they used in Hong Kong, they used several apps that would help them to mobilize, go around and understand where the police is so that they don't get caught. And Apple had the courage and the ability and the conviction to remove those apps, of course, from the App Store. They provided another reason for taking them down, but there's this ability of and willingness of Apple to do this. Apple can also disrupt Telegram's operation by not allowing very important security updates. And this has happened a couple of years ago to Telegram, that Apple, for some reason that we are not quite sure about, did not allow the security update to happen to Telegram for a while. And this is very dangerous for Telegram when it is operating in Hong Kong, because being claimed that Chinese government has carried out DDoS attacks, especially during the uprising on Telegram. And the fact that they cannot update their security and Apple doesn't allow them, that would weaken their security. And of course, Apple can request Telegram to block certain channels on its platforms in Hong Kong. Now, this has not happened, but it has happened in other contexts non. All right, so what is Telegram's reaction? Telegram kind of resists blocking and resists even government requests and says that, oh, I don't want to listen to the authority. But when it comes to Apple, it cannot do anything because Apple is too powerful, and they can just like remove them from the store, and the iPhone users cannot download that. And the thing that they do in reaction to Apple is that their CEO goes on Telegram and says that, yeah, Apple belongs to the digital Middle Ages and Stone Ages and stuff like that, but they can't, in reality, they can't do anything. Once they actually brought a case, I think filed a lawsuit in Europe about antitrust and what Apple does to them. Now, comparing Apple in the US and China, is it comparing apples and oranges? I think that they're quite different. We should consider that Apple actually has a large market in China, and this is like the manufacturing and the most of the Apple devices are manufactured in China. And this requires cooperation with the Chinese government. So in a way, they cannot say no to the Chinese government, and they haven't. The US hasn't asked for removal of Telegram. It does other things that I mentioned, but China has. China does its DDoS attacks on these apps, but also US has sting operations, data requests that come from China or the US, as long as it's not about content, they are like abide by. This is like from what I understand from their transparency reports. And then, so as I said, as long as it's not breaking the encryption, Apple actually gives the authorities the metadata that they need. The downloading, how many have downloaded the app, even sometimes they tell the location of the people who have downloaded the app. And that's it.